News that we are tracking at this point in time, we're learning amid the diplomatic tensions between India and Maldives. It seems trouble is mounting for Maldivian President Mohamed Muizzu from within his country. The main opposition party in Maldives, the MDP, is said to have collected enough signatures needed to initiate a no-confidence motion to launch impeachment proceedings against the Muizzu government. Well, the impeachment motion against Muizzu is likely to be submitted to the parliament soon. A total of 34 members, including representatives from both the MDP and Democrats, have given their support for the motion for the impeachment of the president. Well, this comes just a day after the Maldivian Parliament had witnessed chaos on Sunday when lawmakers came to blows, disrupting a special session convened to seek parliamentary approval for Muizzu's cabinet ministers. MPs from the ruling alliance were seen clashing with the opposition MDP members. The video that emerged showed MPs had gathered near the speaker's chairs and engaged in a physical fight. During the altercation, we are learning MP Shaheen had also sustained injuries to his head when the two parliamentarians fell near the chamber. Now, it's also important to note here that the primary opposition parties in the Maldives have expressed their concern regarding the government's perceived anti-India stance. Well, the opposition parties have often been reminding Muizzu that India is Maldives' oldest ally, and the recent decisions being taken by the government, be it the Maldives government granting permission to dock a Chinese ship at the Maldivian port for replenishment or asking Indian troops stationed in Maldives to leave from the island nation by March 15, have further increased the strain between the two countries. Meanwhile, that is the latest we are picking at this point in time. An impeachment motion is expected to be initiated by the MDP. All right, my colleague Vishnu is also now joining us on the broadcast here, getting us more on that. Vishnu, there seems to be trouble mounting for the Muizzu government. Does the opposition have required numbers to move to initiate the impeachment proceedings against him?
It appears quite clear that impeachment motions against the incumbent President Mohamed Muizzu, will be pushed through by the MDP, which is the Maldivian Democratic Party, which with Ibrahim Solih as the former president, the key leader of the MDP. This also is a political play ahead of the parliamentary elections in the Maldives, which is set to take place in a couple of months from now. And in those elections, it does appear that Muizzu in any case faces a considerable headwind. But if there is an impeachment process which actually moves against him earlier on, in other words, almost immediately, then he could also see himself in facing a lot of trouble. He could, in fact, be impeached, because it does appear that the Maldivian Democratic Party, along with other opposition parties, have managed to get 56 signatures, which is the minimum amount which is required to push through an impeachment motion. So if that does happen, then we could see this president be out of office.
All right. Thank you so much, Vishnu, for getting us all those details there. 56 signatures have been taken by the opposition members. This is what we are learning at this point in time to move the impeachment proceedings, the impeachment motion against the president. All right. I'm also being joined by Mr. Jitendra Nath Mishra, former ambassador and professor at O.P. Jindal Global University, on the broadcast. Dr. R.K. Radhakrishnan, journalist and expert on Maldives affairs, also joins us on the broadcast here. Thank you so much, Mr. Mishra, as well as Dr. Radhakrishnan, for joining us here on NDTV. Mr. Mishra, if I could come to you first, how do you see this? The opposition is now planning to move an impeachment motion against the president. Now, how do we see this in the context of India? And there, of course, seems to be trouble brewing for the Muizzu government at this point in time.
Very much. Diplomats are not in the business of commenting on the internal affairs of friendly countries. However, as far as the diplomatic consequences and consequences for the relationship with India are concerned, well, I think the problems are structural in nature in this relationship between India and the Maldives. What I mean is that beyond a point, it does not really matter if it is the Progressive Party of the Maldives, which is the ruling party, or the opposition Maldives Democratic Party that's in power. Beyond a point, it does matter as far as the atmosphere is concerned, as far as the immediate moment is concerned. But as far as the strategic nature of the relationship and the structural nature and the problems therein of the relationship are concerned, it does not matter. Well, our External Affairs Minister was very wise, obviously. He's brilliant. He said politics is politics, and we cannot guarantee that we will always get support in every country for all the things that we do or do not do. in the relationship with these countries. So that holds true very much for the Maldives. I heard from Vishnu that the magic number for impeachment is 56, and if they muster the numbers, if there's a motion, it passes, then Mr. Muizzu will be out of office. Now, what implications would that have? Well, as I said, beyond a point, not very much, because let's be very clear that the Maldives is a sovereign nation. It rejoices and it celebrates its own independence and sovereignty, just as we do. And we need to be accommodative towards each other. And India is a much bigger partner, and it's always a challenge dealing with smaller
so
partners.
far, but Maldives hasn't been in this case. And the kind of the decisions that have been taken by the Muizzu government in the recent past do not really suit India. His pro-Chinese stance also doesn't really suit India. How do we see that?
Yes, you are absolutely right. He has gone a little bit beyond what we would have expected in voicing very strong and shrill anti-India sentiment. But, all that is these are the knowns of the relationship. The unknowns are what's really happening. There is a negotiation taking place. There have been different readouts on the request for removal of Indian troops, 77 Indian troops. India's readout says that we are talking about it, and the Maldives government said that India has agreed to take them out. So there is a disagreement, and in diplomacy, when one side goes public, I think perhaps Mr. Muizzu was trying to put pressure on India by going public, but that might have not been a very good way forward, because it forced India also to go public on this issue of contention right now, which is the presence of Indian troops. And of course, there are so many other things.
Well, absolutely, sir. That's of course one of the decisions and one of the points where there is disagreement, of course, between India and Maldives. Let me also bring in Dr. R.K. Radhakrishnan here. Dr. Radhakrishnan, would you agree with the points that have been made by Mr. Mishra, or how do we see the process or the planning of moving the impeachment motion against the Maldives president at this point in time by the opposition?
No, I'll cover the ground which has not been covered so far. The first thing is that you're going to have a worse guy in case Muizzu is impeached. There is no point in impeaching Muizzu. I hope South Bloc gets this into their heads, because the next guy who's coming to sit there is Sembe. The thing is that if the president is impeached according to Maldivian law, or the president is not able to hold office, or the president resides, or the president dies, or whatever, the next guy who hold power will be the vice president. And the vice president in this case happens to be a PPM member, the Progressive Party of Maldives member, basically Yamin Slanky, and that guy's name is Sembe. He's the vice president of this country. So what are you trying to do? You're trying to replace one problem with another worse problem. Yamin is the original pro-China guy. So you're going to bring one of his proteges and putting him as president. Is that what India wants? And the second thing, 87 members in parliament, 56 is a supermajority. Of course, MDP has 43 members, and the Democrats, which is split from the MDP, has 13 members. Now, you just remove one guy from the equation. It is easy to buy one guy, a couple of guys with, ministerial posts or whatever. Yeah, the no confidence motion falls flat. Again, you have a problem here, because Moise and his entire team believes that India is behind this whole show. India is interfering in the internal affairs of Maldives and whatnot. I mean, these things we need to make extremely clear, because MDP and the Democrats are known as pro-India parties, and whereas Yamin's party, the new party, and of course PNC and PPM are known as anti-India parties, or rather pro-China parties. So the India government has to be very clear as to what it wants to do at this point of time. Instead of wasting time on trying to replace somebody like Muizzu, I think we need to...
So sir, what is it that is in interest of India then? How should we progress then?
There is a parliamentary election coming up on March 17th. I think India should be very clear that it has been an honest broker, it has been a friend of Maldives, and try and strengthen the hands of pro-India Maldivian parties and make sure that they retain their supermajority, in which case the president cannot do much. You should remember that Maldivian system is an extremely beautiful democratic system. The president is elected separately by the direct electorate, and the parliament is elected separately by a direct electorate. Now, the president, the beauty of the system is that the president can appoint literally anybody, his cook, his driver, or whoever as cabinet members. They don't need to be elected members of parliament, but these members have to be endorsed by the parliament. That is the beauty of the system. Now, if the supermajority remains with the parliament, with the MTB and the Democrats, it is impossible for Muizzu to have his way, and we will have checkmated Muizzu. I think that is the way to go. That is the way that Delhi should go. But I'm sorry to say that cowboys in Delhi have something else in their mind.
Okay, all right. Let me also take one reaction from Mr. Mishra here on this. Mr. Mishra, what would you say to the points that have been referred to by Dr. Radhakrishnan?
Well, I would reiterate what I said, is that India should be very careful, and India should be very willing to deal with whoever is in power. I heard from Dr. Radhakrishnan that the vice president coming to power at the cost of the president would be worse. But remember that, when Nasheed, he was the so-called India's man. I don't like these phrases, India's man, anti-India, pro-China.
Right.
I don't look at foreign affairs in terms of personalities. I look at it structurally. Structurally, there is a problem, and everyone who was not in power took on the attributes of a certain degree of anti-Indian pronouncements and statements while not in power, but made adjustments once they came into power. And Muizzu could make that adjustment because India is the near neighbor. India has the capacity to be an immense force for the good, as we just heard. And therefore, I would say, let's go back to Nasheed. I just want to make that one point.
Okay.
What did he do? He broke away from the ruling party. And what did that do from the Progressive Party? And that did not help Soli in the elections. That helped Muizzu come to power. So Nasheed was as much looking at his own political interests as Muizzu does, or Soli does, or any politician does in any country for that matter.
Of
so
course,
I think
of
we
course,
should look
yes.
at this very dispassionately. And Yamin asked for the recall of Indian troops and helicopters. But did he act on that? He could not, because the government fell. Something similar might happen this time, and problem solved. So India has to be very careful not to take sides in this internal matter and conflict of the Maldives. We are dealing with a sovereign, independent nation, and we must respect them.
Absolutely. That's been the policy of India so far, and we do hope that remains in the future also. Well, this is, of course, the internal matter of Maldives, but how is it really going to impact India in the coming days if the impeachment motion goes through? That, of course, remains to be seen. Thank you so much to Dr. Radhakrishnan as well as Mr. Mishra for joining us here on the broadcast.